Welcome to another episode of real-life haunted stories. If you love chilling tales and spine-tingling horror stories, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a scare. New nightmares drop every week. Stay haunted. So, let's start our today's episode. For the beginning, I have a small request to all of you. All of our contents are for fun and enjoyment. If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and stay updated with our latest videos. Your support means a lot. Also, if you notice any mistakes or have any suggestions, please feel free to share them in the comments or send to our email address, which you can find on description box. I'd love to improve and make better episodes for you. Thanks. Now, I am sharing two stories which shared by Cheryl Gibson to us. Story 1. The Cursed Bunk Bed of Wisconsin. In the small town of Horicon, Wisconsin, a seemingly innocent purchase led to one of the most terrifying hauntings ever recorded. In 1987, Alan and Debbie Tallman bought a wooden bunk bed from a second-hand shop for their children. Little did they know, the moment they brought it home, their lives would descend into a nightmare. Strange occurrences began almost immediately. The radio in the children's room would turn on and off by itself, and objects would move without explanation. Their youngest daughter claimed to see a ghostly old woman with red eyes staring at her in the middle of the night. The couple tried to dismiss it as childhood imagination until the activity escalated. One night, Alan came home late and placed his lunchbox on the kitchen counter. Moments later, it flew across the room on its own. The family would hear disembodied voices whispering their names. Shadows slithered along the walls without a source. The children grew sick, and a sinister presence loomed over the home. Then, something truly horrifying happened. One night, Alan was sitting in his truck outside, gathering the courage to go back into his own home, when an unseen force rocked the vehicle violently. It shook so hard that Alan fled into the house, completely terrified. That was the breaking point. The Tallmans decided to destroy the cursed bunk bed. As soon as they removed it from their house and burned it, the paranormal activity stopped entirely. To this day, no one knows where the bunk bed originally came from or what dark force had latched onto it. Story 2. The Demon House of Gary, Indiana. In 2011, a single mother, Latoya Ammons, and her 3 children moved into a rental home in Gary, Indiana. What followed was a documented case of demonic possession so terrifying that even the police, doctors, and child protective services were involved. Shortly after moving in, Latoya and her children noticed swarms of black flies invading their screened-in porch in the middle of winter. No matter how many times they killed them, the flies kept returning. Then, the footsteps began, heavy stomping coming from the basement when no one was down there. Doors would creak open on their own, and strange, wet footprints appeared in the house with no explanation. The children began acting strangely. They would talk to unseen figures, and at times their voices changed as if something else was speaking through them. The youngest son was seen levitating in his bed while unconscious, witnessed by several people, including a priest. Latoya and her mother sought help from their church, which advised them to cleanse the home. Things only got worse. The children became violent, cursing in deep voices that weren't their own. The oldest son was thrown against a wall by an invisible force. Medical professionals examined the children but could not explain their sudden behavior changes. Then, something shocking happened at the hospital. In front of nurses, social workers, and doctors, LaToya's 9-year-old son walked backward up a wall and flipped over, defying gravity. Everyone in the room was horrified, and a report was filed confirming the bizarre incident. Fearing for their safety, LaToya moved her family out. The landlord later sold the house to paranormal investigator Zach Bagans, who filmed a documentary, Demon House. After experiencing disturbing activity himself, he had the entire house demolished in 2016. Some believe the house sat on cursed land, while others think a portal to something evil was opened there. But one thing is certain: whatever lurked in that home was real, and it left a lasting mark on everyone who entered. Story 2: Man in Debt to the Mob. This gripping story was sent to our channel by David P. Carroll, a tale of crime, deception, and tragedy. Billy's story is one that people talked about to this day. Billy was married and had 2 kids. His wife was very sick. She didn't work and couldn't do anything. He had 2 young daughters who were in school. They were a very poor family, and Billy was in debt to the mob. His family was heavily insured, and he needed money badly. One night, sitting in his dark room, he decided to stage his own death. His plan was to go out late at night and dig up a dead body in St. John's graveyard. He placed the dead body in the driver's seat, leaving his driver's license, wedding ring, gold watch, pictures of his family, and his father's ring, which his elderly mother had given him. Billy also had 2 plastic bottles filled with his own blood, which he left in the car beside the stolen body. He made his getaway in a stolen car that he had parked at St. John's graveyard. Before leaving, he set the car on fire. His family was told he had died in a car crash, burned to death. They received a $10 million insurance payout, but they couldn't believe what had happened. Days later, several mafia members who had been seen with Billy were arrested and held for questioning. 4 of them were released without charge, and the cops couldn't believe what had happened. Who wanted Billy dead? Was this an insurance job? The police questioned his sick wife, his 2 daughters, his elderly mother, and his friends, but no one knew anything about what had happened to Billy. Did he actually die in a car crash, or was it staged because of his mafia debts? The cops decided to examine the burnt body. To their shock, it didn't match Billy. The remains belonged to a man in his late 60s with very long hair who had been dead for over 20 years. They were baffled. Then they got a tip-off. An old girlfriend, Rebecca, told the cops she had seen Billy working in a different state. The police couldn't believe it. They tracked down a man using the name Jack Bobby. He was bald with a long beard and had been under surveillance for days. He was spending large amounts of money, leading the police to suspect he was actually Billy. When Billy realized the cops were onto him, he fled. Now, both the police and the mafia wanted him, the police for fraud and the mafia for their money. One Saturday night, Billy walked into his house. His family couldn't believe he was alive. They demanded to know what had happened to him and who the dead body in his car was. Suddenly, 2 armed mafia members arrived at Billy's house, carrying machine guns and knives. They shot his wife in the head, killing her instantly. His 2 daughters ran and hid under the stairs. The cops arrived moments later, and a shootout ensued. The two mafia members were shot dead. In desperation, Billy tried to escape by jumping out of a window. The cops shouted at him, "Billy!" He looked back, lost his balance, and slipped. He fell, breaking both his legs, but he survived. He was arrested for fraud and for stealing a dead body from a graveyard. Billy was sentenced to 45 years in prison. 5 years into his sentence, he passed away from chronic heart disease. His 2 daughters became homeless. Everything Billy had owned was taken away and sold. 2 days after his death, he was buried alongside his wife. His elderly mother, Kathleen, passed away from lung cancer soon after. To this day, people still talk about Billy. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, to show your support, comment to share your thoughts or ask questions, and don't forget to subscribe to stay updated with our latest content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload.